All right, good afternoon, everyone. Today is May 26th. We're here. It's about almost 3 o'clock, 2:52 on the Sabbath. And I will kind of continue. I'm going to do a little bit of a recap just to get back to where I was last week. And I think I made a mistake. I called last week the 9th instead of the 19th. So hopefully I said the 26th today. All right. So we're talking about the kingdom of Yah, and we're continuing on kingdom culture. This is going to be the last installment on this one. So this is part 4C. Our society is led by a king. That makes it a kingdom. Yah is the king. Yah has set the norms of conduct and standard forms of communication for his kingdom. Any questions on any of that so far? All right, because it's just a recap. All right, so in Yah's kingdom, the code of conduct is Torah, and the language that he has chosen is Hebrew. Culture is defined by Merriam-Webster as customary beliefs, social forms. It's a set of shared attitudes, set values. All right, when we're talking about culture, we're also talking about the idea of cultivation. It's about growth. And us being Yah's planting here in this earth. All right, so as far as language are the words we use, how they're pronounced, how we articulate them. It can also be the words as far as how we write them. All right, the word language comes from into English from the Anglo-French. It means tongue. All right, so far so good. All right, every government, and we're talking about Yah's kingdom right now, as well as the government we have here on earth. Every government has an official language. In the U.S., the official language is English. All laws, manuals, publications, and other documents are produced in English here in the United States. All right. Yah's kingdom also has an official language, and that is Hebrew. The word Hebrew comes from the name of a person who used to live. His name is Iber or Eber, and if you were to say the title or the name of the language in Hebrew, it would be Eberu. All right, the word Eber means one who has escaped. So we see the first person, one who's crossed over to the other side. We see the first person who was called a Hebrew was Abram. It's called Hebrew. All right, so Hebrew comes from Eber, and Eber was one of the children of Shem. All right, we had this nice little picture where we were able to see the line of the Messiah. And as we were able to go through that, we were able to see Shem in Messiah's line. We were also able to see that Shem was a very long-lived man. He lived about 600 years. And not only did he get a chance to meet and to know his son Arphaxad and his grandson Selah, but he also was able to meet as far down as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as well. All right, so Eber is Ein Bet Resh, so it's Iber would be the way it be spoken in the truest form of Hebrew. And if we want to know a little bit more about that, we can look into the book of Jasher, because it tells more about his life and some of the things that he's done and the interactions that he's had, more than Genesis gives. All right, getting back to Luke. A good man brings forth that which is good out of the treasure of his heart. A wicked man brings forth what is wicked out of the wicked treasure of his heart. For out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. So we're still talking about the mouth, and we're going to wrap this up. And obviously, Yah must be speaking, because My brother William just spoke on the same thing, so he's obviously trying to say some things here. All right, kingdom culture. For then I shall turn unto the people a clean lip, a language, so that they can call on my name, on the name of Yah, to serve him with one shoulder, or one effort. Okay, we looked a little bit at what the Hebrew was for this and how it's broken down and how the words are ordered in actual Hebrew. That's the Hebrew. All right, we talked about the safa, which is the lips. It's the front part of our face where we let sounds come out of and food go into. Okay, so one of the things I want to say about this is that, you know, everything that Yah has done, he's done with a purpose. He's done with a decided order of how he wants things to go. And, you know, when we're talking about the tongue, when we're talking about the mouth, when we're talking about our lips, I don't want to make this such a rigorous thing to say that we can't communicate with one another. Yes, we can say hi with our lips. We can give directions. We can talk common things with our mouths. That's a part of us interacting and living with each other. Okay? But apart from that, there are some definite things that Yah had in mind when he gave us these parts of our body. All right, so I'm going to skip down a little bit. All right, so let's start with John chapter 4, verse 34 through 38. Now, the reason why I'm going through these next set of scripture is I want to show you that we have an example, okay? Our Messiah, he has come, he's lived, he's died, he's resurrected, he is at the right hand of the Father even now, and we are waiting for him to come back. But while he was here, he gave us a definite example of how we are to live and what we are to do. So let's go through that a little bit. Now, I'm just going to leave that up there right now because I don't have the actual text put up. So let's go to, and I'm going to read from the TS 2009. So this is going to be John chapter 4, starting at verse 34. Yeshua said to them, "My food is to do the desire of him who sent me and to accomplish his work. Do not say that there are still 4 months and the harvest comes. See, I say to you, lift up your eyes and see the fields, for they are white for harvest already. He who reaps receives a reward and gathers fruit for everlasting life, so that both he who is sowing and he who is reaping rejoice together." So we see here that our Messiah, our person that we are to look to and say, this is our example, he's saying that his food, his desire is to do the will of the one who sent him. Now let's go to John. This is going to be chapter 5. Verse 17 through 23. But Yeshua answered and said to them, "My Father works until now, and I work." Because of this, the Yahudim were seeking all the more to kill him, because not only was he breaking the Sabbath, but he was calling Elohim his own Father, making himself equal with Elohim. Therefore, Yeshua responded and said unto them, "Truly I say to you, the Son is able to do none at all by himself, but only that which he sees the Father doing, because whatever he does, the Son does likewise. And the Father loves the Son, and shows him all that he himself does, and greater works than these he is doing to show him, in order that you marvel. For as the Father raises the dead and makes alive, even so the Son makes alive whom he wishes. For the Father judges no one, but he has given all judgment to the Son. For the Father, that all should value the Son, even as they value the Father. He who does not value the Son does not value the Father who sent him. Now, obviously, this is Yeshua speaking here. But if we were to look at the words of Paul, we know that there is a time coming when we will judge the earth. So putting ourselves in that same position of judgment is not something we're doing. This is something that Yah will choose to do at a future time, so that it will come that the honor that our King has, he has given to his Son, and the honor that his Son has, he gives to us, so that we will rule and reign with him at the time appointed. So it's important for us to realize that this is not of us. This is not of our doing. This is something that Yah has done in his own wisdom and will do in his own time. John chapter 6. This will be verse 37 through 40. But I say to you that you have seen me and still do not believe. All that the Father gives me shall come to me, and the one who comes to me I shall in no means cast out. Because I have come down out of the heaven, not to do my own desire, but the desire of him who sent me. This is the desire of the Father who sent me, that all he has given me I should not lose of it, but should raise it in the last day. And this is the desire of him who sent me, that everyone who sees the Son and believes in him should possess everlasting life, and I shall raise him up in the last day. So we see here again, our Messiah is showing us the example of following after what Yah says, after what he does. Okay, let's go to John chapter 8. Okay, we're going to be doing 14 through 18. Yeshua answered and said to them, even if I witness concerning myself, my witness is true. For I know where I came from and where I am going, but you do not know where I came from or where I go. You judge according to the flesh. I judge no one. But even if I do judge, my judgment is true, because I am not alone in it, but I and the Father who sent me. And let's see. Yeah, let's go. And I am the one, verse 17. And your Torah also has been written that the witness of two men is true. I am one who witnesses concerning myself, and the Father who sent me witnesses concerning me. All right, now I'm going to develop this a little bit more in just a few minutes. But here, our Messiah has touched on what I believe is the ultimate reason for all of us being here. Okay, let's be honest. You know, Yah is powerful enough. He could have gone a million different ways and made it work. He has no problem with that. But why go through all the problem of saving a people and a remnant for himself over all these many years? The purpose, if we look here, he says the Torah is a witness, and he is a witness, and his Father is a witness. And our job on this earth as a remnant people of Yah is to witness, to be a witness, not to go out necessarily door to door, okay? Because we have a way of thinking what it means to witness, okay? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your action, your lifestyle, your words equaling the same thing that Yah's actions and lifestyle and words are. That is what we're to do. That is what it means to be a witness. All right? Let's go to John chapter 8. Let's see. Let me get back to my Bible. All right, chapter 8, verse 38 through 50. Now, this is Yeshua speaking. I speak what I have seen with my Father, and I do what I have heard from your Father. Oh, and you do what you have heard from your father. He's talking to the Pharisees here. Thank you for the correction. They answered and said unto him, Abraham is our father. Yeshua said to them, if you were Abraham's children, you would do the works of Abraham. But now you seek to kill me, a man who has spoken to you the truth, which I have heard from Elohim. Abraham did not do this. You do the works of your father. And they said unto him, we are not born of whoring. We have one Father, Elohim. And Yeshua said to them, if Elohim were your father, then you would love me, for I came forth from Elohim. And I am here, for I have not come of myself, but he sent me. Why do you not know what I say? Because you are unable to hear my words. You are of your father the devil, and the desires of your father you wish to do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and has not stood in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaks the lie, he speaks of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. And because I speak the truth, you do not believe me. Who of you proves me wrong concerning sin? And if I speak the truth, why do you not believe me? He who is of Elohim hears the words of Elohim. Therefore you do not hear, because you are not of Elohim. The Yehudim answered and said unto him, do we not say well that you are a Shimeroni and have a demon? And Yeshua answered, I do not have a demon, but I value my Father, and you do not value me. I do not seek my own esteem, but the one who is seeking and is judging. Truly I say unto you, if anyone guards my words, he shall never see death at all. So we see here, he is further confirming, I'm not here doing what I've come to do or what I want to do. I have one that has sent me. I'm simply doing and saying what he told me. That's it. That's being a witness. John chapter 12. Okay, we're going to do 44 through 50. Then Yeshua cried out and said, he who believes me believes not in me, but him who sent me. And he who sees me sees him who sent me. I have come as a light unto the world, so that no one who believes in me should stay in darkness. And if anyone hears my words, but does not watch over them, I do not judge him, for I did not come to judge the world, but to save it. He who rejects me and does not receive my words has one who judges him. The words that I have spoken will judge him in the last day, because I speak not from myself, but the Father who sent me gave me a command, what I should say and what I should speak. And I know that his command is everlasting. Therefore I speak as the Father has said to me, so I speak. This is our job. This is our example. This is who we're supposed to follow. Now, like I said, we can have normal conversations among each other. I'm not talking about that. But we also have a higher calling and a bigger job to be a witness for Yah. All right? Let's go to John chapter 14. Verse 9 through 11. Yeshua said to him, "Have I been with you so long, and you have not known me, Philip? He who has seen me has seen the Father. How do you say, 'Show us the Father'? Do you not believe that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me? The words that I speak to you, I do not speak from myself, but the Father who says to me does his work." Let's see. Yeah, we're going to 11. Believe in me and that I'm in the Father, and that the Father is in me. Likewise, believe me because of the works themselves. All right? So we just have a reiteration. And this is all coming from the book of John. All right? So we got John chapter 18, verse 37. That's going to be our last one in John. All right. So this is Yeshua. He's standing. He is about to go to judgment. Or he's actually in the judgment process, and he's speaking to Pontius Pilate. All right. And then Pilate said to him, "Are you a sovereign then?" And Yeshua answered, "You said it." He said, "You're right." He was agreeing. Okay. "Because I am a sovereign. For this I was born, and for this I have come into the world, that I should bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice." He's a witness. He's our example as a witness. All right. So let's go to John chapter 20, verse 19. I thought that was the last one in John. All right, so we have a resurrected Messiah here in John. He's already died. He's already come back. All right. "When therefore it was evening on that day, day one of the week." Now I want to tell you something about this. This is the TS, and the King James follows in this. But if you look at the Greek, the phrase here is mia sabbaton. It means one of the Sabbaths. If you know what time you're in, it makes sense. Now, it's fortunate that we have just done Passover. We're now in the Feast of Weeks. We know that we're counting down Sabbaths. So it makes perfect sense that someone who knows this would say, okay, so on one of those Sabbaths, during this time, counting down to the end, which is going to be Shavuot. Okay, so we know we're counting down. "When the doors were shut and the taught ones met for fear of the Yahudim, Yeshua came and stood in the midst and said unto them, 'Peace to you.'" All right. So we have a understanding of what John 2:19 is saying, because we follow the feast. For all the world out there who's reading John 20:19, they got no idea, because they don't have the context. They don't have the framework to understand what's being said here. Okay, let's go to Acts chapter 1. All right, now one thing I want to say about the book of Acts. Acts is called Acts, but it could easily be called the second book of Luke. Okay? If you look at the first 3 verses of the book of Luke and you look at the first verse of Acts, you'll see that both of these were written by Luke to a man named Theophilus. So, and in Acts chapter 1, he says, the first account I made, O Theophilus. Well, the first account that he made was the book of Luke. Okay? So let's go to, I'm going to read 1 through 13. Of all that Yeshua began both to do and to preach, until the day when he was taken up and giving instruction through the set-apart Spirit to the emissaries who he had chosen, to whom he also presented himself alive after his suffering of many infallible truths, being seen of them 40 days, speaking concerning the reign of Elohim. Now, obviously, we're talking about kingdom. We're talking about the reign of Elohim. I don't know if this makes any sense to anybody else. Yeshua knows that his time is short here on earth when he's going to be interacting almost one-on-one with his disciples. He's got a limited time. He knows that he is going to be heading up. Okay? So during a 40-day period, he appears to them. What does he talk about for this 40-day period? Well, Luke kind of gives us a capsule of it. He says that he is speaking concerning the kingdom of Yah, the reign of Elohim, for 40 days. How could he talk that much about one topic? But trust me, I'll probably be speaking longer than that, all right? There's a lot to go over. And he met with them. He commanded them not to leave Jerusalem, but to wait for the promise of the Father, which you have heard from me. Because you're not truly immersed in water, but you shall be immersed with the set-apart Spirit not many days from now. And when they had come together, he said to them, Master, would you at this time restore the reign of Israel? Now, I want to stop here for a second. I do need to make sure that everyone understands the reign of Yah and the reign of Israel are not the same. Yah's reign is everlasting. It has always been, and it always will be. There's no point in time when it started, and there's no point in time when it will end. But Israel, by the way, we can look in our word and see when Israel began to be a kingdom, and we can look and see at history when it stopped being a kingdom, and we can look forward to at some point in time in the future, it will become a kingdom again, and Yeshua is going to be the king over that kingdom. But the kingdom of Yah and the kingdom of Israel are not the same. We can look at points in time when Israel was in Yah's kingdom, being under his rule, and we can also read about the times when it wasn't. Whenever there was a king who wouldn't follow him, we know that this just wasn't it. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that, because obviously this was something that the disciples still had a bit of an issue with, because they're wanting to know, well, when is our nation going to be restored and the kingdom restored? Well, he's trying to tell them, look, I got something a little bit more important than that. Okay? I'm talking about not one nation, but I'm talking about reclaiming this entire world back to Yah. It's been under the rule of Satan for all these years. It's time to kick out Satan, put him in the pit, do whatever we got to do with him so that Yah can rule on the earth once again. Okay? All right. Let's continue. He said to them, it is not for you to know the times or the seasons which the Father has put in his own authority, but you shall receive power when the set-apart Spirit has come upon you, and you shall be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in Judea and in Shimron and to the ends of the earth. I'm just going to end right there on this particular part. The purpose of the Spirit coming upon you, coming upon me, is because it empowers us to be a witness. Not only in our speech, but in our everyday actions. If you, I'm going to try to be nice about this. If you believe that you have God's Spirit, okay, and you are not living and speaking as a witness, you want to check the spirit you got. Because it might not be a quote unquote holy one. It might not be one set apart from Yah. Because there's a lot of spirits out here and not all of them are good. And unfortunately, the world that we live in is in a delusion. But they don't know it because they don't have the real. They've taken the counterfeit. They've taken the fake. All right. Let's go to Acts chapter 2. And I'm not going to read the whole chapter. All right. When the day of the festival of Shavuot had come. Okay. So we know what time period we're in here. And they were all with one mind in one place, and suddenly there came a sound from heaven of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled the house where they were sitting, and there appeared to them divided tongues as of fire, and settled on each of them. And they were all filled with the set-apart Spirit, and began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit gave them to speak. All right, I'm going to stop right there, okay? And I'm going to skip down a little bit. So, Spirit comes down. Well, if it was Yah's Spirit, then we should see them immediately after that being a witness to Yah. And that's exactly what we see. All right? And let's go down to... Well, I'll just continue. This is verse 5. Now in Jerusalem there were dwelling Yahudim, dedicated men from every nation under the heaven. And when this sound came to be, the crowd came together and were confused because everyone heard them speaking in his own language. Now you got people who are Jewish, if you want to call that, Israelites by birth, that have been dispersed. But they still kept the feast, so they came back to Jerusalem. Okay? So I'm just going to put this out here. But is it possible that Yah has instituted these feast days because there's something special that he wants to impart to his people, but only the ones who are obedient to do it get it? It was only now there were Israelitish Jewish people all over the world at this point, millions of them, all over the place. But here we only have a few thousand that came for this particular feast in Jerusalem. And what the Father had for them, they got. We're going to read it. I'm going to read it. All right. And they were all amazed, I'm in verse 7, and marveled, saying to each other, look, are not all these who speak Galileans? Now, I talked a little bit about the idea of having dialects. The Galileans were your country folk. You know, they kind of slang the language around a little bit. So when they were in Jerusalem, the people who were there automatically knew, these are Galileans. These are not your sophisticated folk, okay? And it's okay. It's all the same language. They understood what they were talking about, even though the dialect was different. And how do we hear each one in our own language in which we were born? They were born away from Jerusalem. Parthians and Medes and Elamites, and those dwelling in Aram and Naharaim, both of Yahudah and Cappadocia, Pontus and Asia, both Pergia and Pamphylia, Mitzrayim and the parts of Libya around Cyrene, visitors of Rome's, both Yahudim and converts, Cretans and Arabs. We hear them speaking in our own language the great deeds of Elohim. And we are all amazed and were puzzled, saying to each other, what does this mean? Others mocking said, they have been filled with sweet wine. But Kepha, this is Peter, the spokesman of the group, standing up with the 11, lifted his voice and said unto them, men of Yahudah and all those dwelling in Jerusalem, let this be known to you, and listen closely to my words. For these men are not drunk, as you imagine, since it is only the 3rd hour of the day. But this is what was spoken by the prophet Joel. It shall be in the last days that Elohim shall pour, says Elohim, I shall pour out of my spirit on all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall see dreams, and also on my male servants and on my female servants shall I pour out my spirit in those days, and they shall prophesy, and I shall show wonders in heaven above and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire, vapor of smoke. The sun shall be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and splendid day. And it shall be that everyone who calls on the name of Yah shall be saved. Okay, speaking directly from the book. The scroll that Joel wrote. Now, we have to contrast this with what happened thousands of years ago. At one time, everybody spoke the same language. I went over a little bit of what was happening with the Tower of Babel. They were going to build this tower. They thought they were going to get up to heaven. And Yah comes in and says, no, I'm not going to have it. And he divides their languages so that they could no longer understand one another. But here we have the day of Pentecost. We have this feast day that has come, and it's the exact opposite. These men are speaking by the Spirit, and everybody with the divided languages heard exactly what they were saying with no problem. In fact, when you look at what's saying here when it talked about in the language that we were born, it's talking about to the very dialect that those people spoke. So they understood perfectly. Okay? So we have, I'm going to Acts chapter 25. For David said concerning, I saw Yah before me continually, because he is at my right hand, in order that I should not be shaken. For this reason my heart rejoiced, and my tongue is glad. Now my flesh shall rest in expectation, because you shall not leave me being in Sheol, nor shall you give your loving committed one to see corruption. And I have made you to know the ways of life, and you shall fill me with your presence. Men and brothers, let me speak boldly to you of the ancestor David. He died and was buried, and in his tomb is with us today. Being a prophet then, and knowing that Elohim has sworn with an oath of the fruit of the loins according to the flesh, to raise up Messiah to sit on his throne, foreseeing that he spoke concerning the resurrection of Messiah, that his being was neither left in Sheol, nor did his flesh see corruption. Elohim has raised Yeshua, of which we are all witnesses. So we see here the purpose of the Spirit being in you, being in me, is for us to be a witness to the world. He's already said he's not going to do it, and he's going to use us. It's up to us to get off our rusty dusties and do it. We got to do the work. That's what he's given us. All right. Now, this is going to be a little bit, and, let me go down a little bit. All right. So in the Greek, You might notice this word martyrs. It almost sounds like martyr, okay? But this word means to be a witness, okay? Martyr is to be one who stands up for a witness even though he has to die for it. Sometimes death is the witness, because sometimes people will not take note unless there is blood spilled. And unfortunately, we have so many prophets and righteous people who have gone on before us that have had to do that. And we have to be ready for that. In fact, William just spoke a little bit about what was in Revelations. We overcome by the blood, which was already shed. We don't have to worry about that. That's a done deal. But by the word of our testimony. That word is witness. Your witness is what's going to get you before Yah. How well you can witness. How close. Well, let me go back into, let me get into these words a little bit. Okay? So we have Ida, which is actually starts with an I, and so it'd be more like Ida. Okay? I have an aunt, Ida. She was nice. She was a very nice lady. All right. But it means testimony. It means witness. These are legal terms. When you go up on the stand and the judge says, what do you have to say about what's going on? The one who you are being a good witness for on that stand is the one whose story equals what you're saying. Now, you can go in for the defense or you can go in for the prosecutor. But when you give your testimony, if you're saying he did it, you're a witness for the prosecution. If you're saying I didn't see him do it, you're being a witness for the defense. Doesn't matter who you were called up to be, but your testimony, your witness that you give determines that. All right? All right. So we have, it comes from the word id, which means recorder. It means a duplicate. I don't know if you realize this. When Yah said, let us make man in our likeness, in our image, he was creating not exact duplicate, but a rough draft of himself. You know, if he's the 3D, we're like the stick man, okay? We're a fair facsimile just to give somebody the idea. But what happens is when we speak, when we live, they get to see him through us. When we say certain things, are we giving the witness? When we do certain things, are we giving the witness? Are we giving a duplicate of what Yah would do if he was here? Well, you know, there was this big thing a while back. It was WWJD, right? What would Jesus do? I think everybody's heard that at one point in time or another. I got a better question. Not what would he do, what did he do? If you simply go back and read in the scriptures what he did and simply duplicate that, you're being an honest, true, effective witness. All right? Let's see. All right, so yeah, this goes down to the root, which is, it's like Id, but in modern Hebrew, which has changed a little bit, it's more like ood. But it means a duplicate. It means to repeat. We should be a reliable, recorded message that anybody can play press on at any time. And what makes it so good is we don't have to come up with anything new. We don't have to rely on our own wisdom or our experience or whatever it is that we've gone through in life, although that might help make the case. There's enough already simply written in Scripture that we can say Yah, I can give you my own opinion on this, but I'm going to tell you what Yah said about this, and we should do that. All right, now I'm gonna end with this. Now, I've spoken on this before, and I've given a little bit of this, but I'm going to give you a few scriptures. All right. So when Yeshua was here, he had one thing that is recorded that he did more than anything else. And if you want to be an effective witness for him, I'm going to read it to you, and I'm going to let you figure it out. Okay? So I'm not going to give any commentary on this next part. I'm going to read what I have to say, and I'm going to Yahweh bless. All right? That's what I'm going to do. All right? Matthew chapter 4, verse 12 through 17. And you have heard that Yohanan had been put in prison. Yeshua, having heard that Yohanan, John the Baptist, had been put in prison, he withdrew to Galilee, leaving Nazareth, and he came and dwelt in Capharnaum, which is by the sea, and the borders of Zebulun and Naphtali, to fulfill what had been spoken by Yeshayahu the prophet, saying, Land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, in the way of the sea, beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the nations, the people who sat in darkness saw a great light. And upon those who sat in the land of the shadow of death, light arose to them. Now this is from Isaiah chapter 9, verse 1 and 2. From that time, Yeshua began to proclaim and say, Repent, for the reign of the heavens has drawn near. This is what I call the gospel. This is what he called the gospel. All right. Matthew chapter 4, verse 23 through 25. And Yeshua went about all Galilee, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the good news of the reign, and healing every disease and every bodily weakness among the people. And the news went about him into all Syria, and they brought to him all who were sick, afflicted with various diseases and pains, and all those who were demon-possessed, and epileptics and paralytics, and he healed them. And large crowds from Galilee and Decapolis and Jerusalem and Yahudah and beyond the Jordan began following him. Matthew chapter 9, verse 25 through 25 through 38. 25 to 28, excuse me. And Yeshua went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their congregations and proclaiming the good news of the reign, and healing every disease and every bodily weakness among the people. And having seen the crowds, he was moved with compassion on them, because they were weary and scattered as sheep having no shepherd. Okay? Then he said to his taught ones, the harvest truly is great, but the workers are few. Pray then that the master of the harvest would send out his workers for his harvest. Matthew chapter 10, this is verse 5 through 15. Yeshua sent out these 12, having commanded them, saying, Do not go into the way of the nations, and do not enter the cities of the Shimronim, but rather go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And as you go, proclaim, saying, The reign of the heavens has drawn near. Anybody hearing a familiar theme here, or is it just me? Okay. Now, this is what he's telling us to say. I'm not saying anything. I'm just reading. Has drawn near. Heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out the demons. You have received without paying, give without paying. Do not acquire gold or silver or copper for your money belts or for your bags for the journey. Let's skip down a little bit. Matthew chapter 24, starting at verse 3. And as he sat on the Mount of Olives, the taught ones came to him separately, saying, Say to us, when all these things when shall this be? What is the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? And Yeshua answered and said unto them, Take heed that no one lead you astray, for many shall come in my name, saying, I'm Messiah, and they shall lead many astray, and you shall begin to hear of fightings and reporting of fightings. See that you're not troubled, for these have to take place, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and reign against reign, and there shall be scarcity of food, and deadly diseases, and earthquakes in places, and all these are the beginning of birth pains. Then they will deliver you up to be afflicted and kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then many shall stumble, and they shall deliver up one another, and they shall hate one another, and many false prophets shall arise and lead many astray. And because of the increase of lawlessness, and I really would like to go into that, okay, but I'm not. The love of many shall wax cold, but he who shall have endured to the end shall be saved. For this good news of the reign shall be proclaimed in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end shall come. Mark chapter 1, verse 14 through and 15. After Yohanan, John the Baptist, was delivered up, Yeshua came to Galilee proclaiming the good news of the reign of Elohim and saying, the time has been fulfilled, the reign of Elohim has come near, repent and believe the good news. Mark chapter 1, starting at verse 35. I have risen very early in the morning while it was still dark, and he went his way to a lonely place, and there he prayed, and Shimon and those who were with him searched for him, and when they found him, he said unto them, Are all seeking you? Are all seeking you? Oh, all are seeking you. And he said to them, let us go to the neighboring towns, so that I proclaim there also, because for this have I come forth. And he was proclaiming in their congregations in all Galilee and casting out demons. Mark chapter 3, verse 13. And he came up on the mountain and called to him those who he wished. And they came to him, and he appointed 12 to be with him. And he sent out to proclaim, to be sent out to proclaim, and to possess authority to heal sicknesses and cast out demons. And he appointed 12, Shimon, whom he added to the name Kepha. And he goes through the names of all the apostles. All right. So he gave them the job of proclaiming, of being a witness. Mark chapter 6, starting at verse 7. And he called the 12 near and began to send them out 2 by 2, and gave them authority over unclean spirits. And he had instructed them to take none at all for the journey except a staff, no bag, no bread, no copper in their money belts, but to wear sandals, and not to wear 2 garments. And he said unto them, whenever you enter into a house, stay there until you leave that place. And at any place that does not receive you or listen to you, then you leave there. When you leave there, shake off the dust from under your feet as a witness to them. Truly I say unto you, it shall be more bearable for Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city. And they went out and proclaimed that men should repent. And they cast out many demons, and they were anointing with oil many who were sick, and they healed them. Mark chapter 13, verse 3. And he sat on the Mount of Olives opposite the set-apart place. Kepha and Jacob and Yohanan and Andrew asked him separately, say unto us, when shall these events be? And what shall be the sign of all this when it's going to be accomplished? Okay, so it's basically repeating. So let's go down to Mark chapter 16, verse 14. Later he appeared to 11 as they were at table. So this is after resurrection. And reproached their unbelief and hardness of heart, because they did not believe that they had seen him after he raised. And he said to them, go into the world and proclaim the good news to every creature. He who has believed and has been immersed shall be saved, but he who has not believed shall be condemned. And all these signs shall accompany the ones who believe. In my name they shall cast out demons, they shall speak with renewed tongues, and they shall take up snakes, and if they drink any deadly thing, it shall by no means hurt them. They shall lay their hands on the sick, and they shall get well. Okay, let's go down to Luke chapter 8, starting at verse 1. And it came to be afterwards that he went through every city and village, proclaiming and bringing the good news of the reign of Elohim. And the 12 were with him, and certain women who were healed of wicked spirits and sicknesses, Miriam called of Magdala, out of whom had come 7 demons. Okay, Luke chapter 9. And having called his 12 taught ones together, he gave them power and authority over all demons to heal diseases. And he sent them to proclaim the reign of Elohim and to heal the sick. And he said unto them, take no matter at all for the journey, neither staff, nor bag, nor bread, nor silver, neither 2 garments, in whatever house you enter, stay there and go from there. And for those who do not receive you, when you go out of the city, shake off the dust from your feet as a witness to them. Okay? Luke chapter 20. And it came to be on one of those days, as he was teaching the people in the set apart place and bringing the good news, that the chief priests and the scribes, together with the elders, came to speak to him. And they said, say unto us, by what authority do you do these things? Now, he's doing all kinds of miracles, but they want to know what authority he has to do it. Luke chapter 24. And as they were saying this, Yeshua himself stood in the midst, he's resurrected, and said unto them, peace unto you. And being startled and frightened, they thought they had seen a spirit, and they said unto them, why are you troubled? Why do doubts arise in your heart? See my hands, see my feet, that it is I myself. Handle me, for a spirit does not have flesh and bone as you see. And I say this, and saying this, he showed them his hands and his feet. And while they were still not believing, for joy and marveling, he said unto them, have you any food here? And they gave him a piece of broiled fish and some honeycomb. And taking it, he ate in their presence. And he said unto them, these are the words which I spoke to you while I was still with you, that all have to be filled, and that is written in the Torah of Moshe and the prophets and the Tehillim concerning me. When he had opened their minds to understand the scriptures, he said unto them, this it is written, so it was necessary for Messiah to suffer and rise again. All right. So we can see here really easily that Messiah focused on people talking about his reign. Okay? Now I'm going to give you a little bit of homework. If you go to the book of Acts, in Acts chapter 14, verse 19 through 23. Let's see. Acts chapter 19, verse 1 through 10. Acts chapter 20, verse 17 through 38. And let's see. Yeah, I think the last book in Acts is 20, right? Yeah. You'll see the disciples, after his resurrection, giving the same message concerning the reign of Elohim. Yahweh bless.